Thank you for joining Cancer Support Community Atlanta for this program. Please visit our website, cscatlanta.org, for a complete list of live and recorded events. We invite you to sign up for our newsletter to stay connected to all future programs.
Welcome, everyone. My name's Lauren. I'm the program director with Cancer Support Community Atlanta. Today, we have a great education program with a niece from the Social Security office. She is the public affairs specialist, and she is going to be going through this program today on the basics of Social Security. Anise, I am turning it over to you. We're so glad to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Denise Norman, Public Affairs Specialist, Social Security Administration in the Georgia Area Director's Office. And what I want to do is give you kind of a general overview of the basics that you need to understand about the disability process. Social Security currently has two disability programs. The first is called Social Security Disability Insurance, or you may hear somebody say SSDI. And this is where you have worked paying those FICA taxes and you have become insured. The other disability program that we have is called Supplemental Security Income, or SSI. That is a federal needs-based program. And I'll touch on that one a little bit as well today, and then explain the process as to what happens once your case goes through the disability process with us. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started here. So again, we're going to talk about Social Security disability insurance today. First thing I'm going to talk about is, what is it? It is just kind of like, a basic baseline income for individuals who have become disabled according to Social Security's rules. The basic definition for a disability is that having a disabling condition that is expected to last 12 months or longer, or could possibly result in an individual's death. That's the basic definition for a disability. With Social Security. And of course, with Social Security disability, it's going to be for those individuals who are unable to perform that substantial gainful activity, meaning that you're no longer able to work. And unfortunately, you are younger than your full retirement age. So you're not quite ready to be able to draw a retirement benefit from Social Security. Okay, I tend to get ahead of myself here. So again, it is basic definition, medical condition expected to last 12 months or longer, or could possibly result in death. And again, it's going to depend on what a person alleges to Social Security when they file that application with us. Normally, one of the things I typically tell people, especially when they're contacting us, is that contact us, and I'll repeat this, as soon as you know that you are disabled and you can no longer work, because unfortunately the disability process does take a little bit of time. So you want to go ahead and contact us so that way you have what we call as a protective filing, showing that you contacted Social Security with an intent to file for disability. And when you are filing for disability, one of the first things we're going to ask you about is, what is your disabling condition? Meaning, what is wrong? What's going on with you that prohibits you from being able to work? I always tell people to paint us a picture. Tell us everything that's going on. Don't just tell us about, I have a heart condition, or I have diabetes, or any other big condition that you may have. Tell us about everything that you have. That you may have, a heart condition, you may have diabetes also, and it may sound silly, but you may have a hangnail that keeps getting infected. We need to know about everything, so that when we send your case off to our disability determination service, these examiners can look at you as a whole and look at the totality of everything to determine, with all of the conditions that you may have, are you capable of doing some type of work? And that's what we're going to need to look at here. So in order to meet the disability criteria, meaning first, for Social Security disability, you have to meet two different earnings tests. The first thing we're going to look at is, have you worked recently? With Social Security disability insurance, this is where you have recent work, and as long as you are contributing by paying those FICA or Social Security taxes, then we're going to look to see, out of the most current 10 years, did you work 5 of those 10 years, meaning you have to have 20 current quarters of coverage to be what we call insured. And as long as you have that, that's going to be one part of the test, so that once we see that, then we can send it off to the Disability Determination Service, because the Social Security Administration, when it comes to a person's disability, we make all of the non-medical decisions on a person. Then we send your case off to our Disability Determination Service, and every state has one because the federal government contracts with the state to have a state agency review all of the medical factors to make sure that you meet the criteria. And then the second part of this test is we're going to look at the duration of work, meaning what type of work were you doing? How long were you doing that type of work? Because with Social Security disability, it is meaning that you're permanently disabled, because a lot of people think of it as, well, I'm just disabled right now. I need something right now in the moment. That's not what Social Security disability was designed for. It's going to be looking to see, can you work at all? With Social Security disability, we look to see what kind of work were you doing, and what type of work could you possibly be doing in the future, such as looking at your educational skill levels and things of that sort, when we're going to be asking questions. And of course, we're going to get additional information about your work history. What type of work were you accustomed to doing for yourself? And also just know that certain blind individuals, they only have to meet the duration of work, because their test or the level is going to be a little bit different for blind individuals. Now, for the rules with the recent work, if you are a younger worker, then you are going to have less than the 20 current quarters of coverage to be able to be what we call insured. So if you are younger than age 24, then all that means is that you really need 6 quarters of coverage, about a year and a half of work, paying into Social Security, and you're considered to be insured for Social Security purposes. If you're between the age of 24 and 34, then we're going to look at how long did you work, or what was the duration of time you were supposed to be working. And as long as you worked paying into Social Security for half of that time, then you would have enough quarters of coverage to be insured. And then once an individual reaches age 31 or older, then we're going to go to the normal rules, which states you must have 10 years. So out of the last 10 years, you had to work 5 of those years working, paying into Social Security, and you would be considered to be insured. Think of it as like, your car insurance. You pay insurance so that you're covered. Same thing here with this. And then also some rules for the duration of work test. Again, it's just going to show that, if you become disabled around what age, then generally we're going to be looking at how many years of work, so that you'll have those appropriate number of quarters in order to be insured for disability with Social Security disability. Another good way to tell that whether or not you are insured for Social Security disability is that if you have a My Social Security account, number one, as long as you've met the minimum requirement to qualify for a retirement benefit, it will show your retirement amounts in there, showing what you could possibly receive at 62, full retirement age, up to age 70. But also it'll show you that if you were to become disabled, how much that disability benefit would be for you. And in essence, what the Social Security disability is, it's allowing a person who cannot work because of their condition to be able to get, I tell people, it's like getting what you would receive at your full retirement age. You're just getting it early because you're no longer able to work now. And again, I just want to reiterate that when you know that you are disabled, it is very important that you contact Social Security as soon as possible, because number one, you're going to protect your data filing, but also it takes a while for us to process this application. And with the Social Security disability application, there is a 5-month waiting period, because when Congress put these rules into place, for whatever reason, they made the assumption that people had at least 5 months worth of income saved up enough to carry them over. So the first 5 months with Social Security disability, we don't pay for those months because of the waiting period. Right now, on average, because of the pandemic, and then because of staffing with the state and with our agency, that it's taking on average to get the initial decision for a disability claim roughly around 12 months or maybe a little bit longer for the initial decision. And that's why I tell people, do not wait. When you know, contact us so that we can get the ball rolling for you on that. And then depending on what your alleged condition is, depending on how quickly you can get those medical records to us, and maybe some other things that we may be able to flag your case, then it may get processed a little bit faster. But like I said, on average, it's taking roughly about 12 months. The other program that I mentioned is the Supplemental Security Income, the SSI, the Federal Needs-Based Program. Again, this program is for individuals who are unable to work. But also with this is where I tell people we get really nosy. We are going to get all up in your business with the needs-based program because this money is going to come from the general tax fund. So we're required to ask a few more questions, such as where do you live? Who do you live with? How many people are in the household? How are the bills getting paid? Do you have any type of income coming in to determine what the potential benefit amount would be for you in that program, versus with Social Security disability, because you've worked, you've earned enough, you're insured, and then we can tell you this is what you're going to be getting, versus the SSI program, because it's going to be a little bit more harsher in terms of looking at getting all up in people's business, wanting to know, are you married? If you're married, is your spouse working? What type of income do they have coming in? Because all of that gets counted in the Supplemental Security Income, or that SSI program, to determine how much are you going to get from that program. SSI is going to be for anyone who is age 65 or older, anybody who has a disability, and even some children can qualify for the Supplemental Security Income, that SSI, the needs-based program here. And again, SSI program, with this program, the money comes out of the general tax fund under the Social Security disability insurance. Your benefit, it comes out of the disability trust fund, is where the money comes from. For going into 2025, the most that a person can get as an individual from the SSI program is going to be $967, and that is per month. SSI benefits are always paid on the first day of the month, and that's one of the ways that we're always asking people about, when do you get your check, so we can determine which program is somebody receiving a benefit from, so then we can kind of see what their situation is and see how it's going to affect their potential benefit. Here I have an example here on the SSI program that if I had a veteran who is homeless, and if they were receiving, say, $980 in VA compensation or a benefit, because of the way that we count SSI money, because this money that we're counting that he's getting from the VA, that would reduce that potential SSI benefit dollar for dollar. And what that would mean is that this individual, he would not qualify for SSI, because the amount of that VA compensation is more than what the SSI program would pay. And like I said, we have to look at everything. Also with the SSI program, one of the things that we tell people is that this is a needs-based program, and it means that we look at, are there any other programs where this person could potentially get a benefit from? And if so, the SSI program requires that you have to apply for all other potential benefits. You have to be pursuing all avenues of trying to get income for yourself under the SSI program, not with Social Security disability, but under the SSI benefit program. Also know that if a person is approved for SSI, as long as we can pay at least $1 in benefits, then attached to that comes Medicaid from the state, wherever they live in. So that's going to be a difference with SSI versus with Social Security disability. You would need to be on the Social Security disability rolls for at least 24 months before a person is eligible to enroll in Medicare. Under the SSI program, like I said, we get really nosy. Some of the things that we're going to ask or require the individual to report, such as where do you live, who lives in the house, what type of income do you have coming in, whether it is earned income, meaning that you're actively working, say, for an employer, and you're getting, pay compensation from that employer, Or are you, say, retired and you're getting a retirement benefit or some other compensation that you're not actively working for in that moment, because that determines how we count that benefit with Social Security. Just a quick question here. I see somebody saying for SSI, if a 65-year-old person is receiving their Social Security but only gets about $1,200 a month, would they qualify for SSI? No, they would not qualify for SSI, because that $1,200 a month that they're getting in Social Security, we're going to count that dollar for dollar. And if the most that we can pay in SSI for next year, because this year I think is 943, but next year is 967, it would wipe out any potential SSI benefits. So they would not qualify for SSI because of the Social Security benefit that they're getting. Okay, so other things that we're going to have to report here under SSI, like I said, we get really nosy. We want to know if somebody comes into the household, somebody goes out, somebody goes to jail, if anybody gets married, if anybody passes away, if anybody leaves the country for more than 30 days, because we have to stop that benefit, then they have to be back in the country for 30 days before we can resume the benefit under the needs-based, the SSI program. Again, because that is going to come from the general tax fund, and Congress requires that we hold people accountable, so to speak, in making sure that we are paying the right person the right amount of money at the right time. Yes, ma'am, that is correct. It is exempt, correct. Okay, just quickly, I want to highlight the differences between SSI and SSDI. Social Security Disability Insurance, as I stated earlier, the funds that somebody gets paid from Social Security Disability, it comes out of the Disability Trust Fund. If someone is getting supplemental security income, SSI, the needs-based program, this comes out of the General Tax Fund. So that's the main difference. Where does the money come from? The next thing with Social Security Disability, in order for a person to be insured, this person had to have worked, paying those FICA taxes so that they can become insured. Whereas SSI, it is needs-based. We're going to look at your situation to determine whether or not you would qualify for it. Let's see the next one here. Pays benefits to disabled individuals who are unable to work regardless of their income and resources. And that's under the Social Security Disability Program, because once you are insured, you are potentially entitled to that benefit as long as you meet the medical requirements of being able to receive the Social Security Disability insurance. Under the SSI program, this is going to be for individuals who have limited income and resources, and they have very little under the SSI program. And under Social Security Disability, if a person gets approved for Social Security benefits under the SSDI program, not only are they potentially eligible for a benefit, also they may have children. As long as they meet certain criteria, they may be eligible for a benefit off of that record, as well as a potential spouse may be eligible to draw off of your record under the SSDI program. Under SSI, the Supplemental Security Income Program, everybody has to be disabled on their own or qualify for that benefit on their own, meaning that, say, if you had a household with 2 parents and a child, for supplemental security income, SSI, all 3 of them would need to be deemed disabled according to the rules in order to get an SSI check. Whereas versus on Social Security Disability, if there were 3 people in the household, and if the dad was disabled and he met the criteria, and if that child is under age 18 or 19 and still in high school, they may be able to get a benefit off of the record. And then also the mom potentially could get a benefit such as a child in care benefit if the child is under the age of 16. So I know I'm talking a lot here, but I hope this is kind of helping everyone here. Someone is asking here, if I am on SSI at 61 years old, will I be forced to apply for SSDI at 62? Not SSDI, but what would happen is once you reach age 62, if you were potentially eligible for a retirement benefit at age 62, then the Supplemental Security Income, the SSI program, would require that you apply for your retirement benefit at age 62, because otherwise you could potentially lose the SSI benefit for failure to file for all other potential benefits that you are available for in that situation there. Also, another thing to highlight here is that with Social Security disability insurance, once a person has been on the rolls for 24 months, then that person is eligible then to enroll in Medicare Part A and B. With Supplemental Security Income, the SSI program, as long as we are able to pay you at least $1 for a cash payment, then Medicaid is attached to that benefit for you. And those are just some kind of general highlights of the basics here. But again, once you know that you need to file for disability, the first thing we're going to do is we're not going to wait. We are going to contact Social Security as soon as possible so that you can schedule that telephone appointment to speak with a representative so that we can help you to complete the application with us and ensure that you've got everything documented. Or you can always go online via your My Social Security account or even at ssa.gov and file that disability application for yourself, because a lot of the things that we're going to be asking you about is about the doctors. Who did you go to? Why did you go to this doctor? When was the most recent time that you seen this doctor? When was the last time that you seen this doctor? If you've been into any hospital or any other facilities, anywhere that we can ask for these records for you. So it's very important that you complete the disability application. And normally when you set up that appointment to schedule that, someone in the either our national 800 number or the local office, what we will do is we're going to send you a link so that you can download certain forms so that prior to your appointment, you can go ahead and complete a lot of this information, such as being able to provide us the names of all of the doctors that you went to. And let me just say, it doesn't have to be exact, meaning I went to this doctor on February 13th, 2023. If you know that you went to the doctor in February of 2023, that's fine, because we're going to usually ask for a range of records from that provider once we know who it is that we need to be asking for information from. So we're going to ask you about, what is your disabling condition? What's wrong? What health issues do you have? Again, I'm going to tell you, tell us about everything. Paint a complete picture for us. Be able to provide us with all of the names of the different doctors that you've been to, the different facilities, such as your primary care doctor. If you've been in the hospital, we need to know the names of the hospitals, most recent times that you've been in the hospital. Trying to think anywhere else that we need to know what medical tests that you've had done recently that helps to pertain to whatever this disabling condition is, so that again, you paint us a complete picture of everything that we need. Of course, you can either call the local office to schedule this appointment or contact our national 800 number. And our agency now has started working on appointment focused appointments, meaning that everybody needs an appointment to be able to speak with someone to take the claim now. And of course, there may be situations that are special where we maybe have to do something a little different for that individual. But for the most part, everybody will need to have an appointment so that we can take this application for an individual here with regards to disability. So what happens? So let me just kind of break down the process here. I'm kind of going through the slides, but I'm kind of talking through this. And let me just say, my background, when I started with the agency many moons ago, I was a supplemental security income and SSI claim specialist. So I would take SSI claims for individuals. So again, when they would come in, they would tell me what was wrong with them. I would ask about their different doctors, providers. First thing we're going to make sure is, do you meet those two tests, the duration of work and what type of work were you doing? Once you meet all of the non-medical requirements, then what we at Social Security do is, once we see that everything is good to go, we have everything we need. We have your medical release forms. We have all of the information about your different doctors and everything, so that we can send that over to the Disability Determination Service. So that gives them the basic information that they need to help you to start to determine whether or not you meet the medical definition of whatever the disability is that you may have for Social Security. So first thing we're going to look to see with Social Security disability is, number one, when you say you want to file, we're going to look to see, do you have, again, what I mean by this is quarters of coverage. Do you have enough current quarters of coverage. Are you insured for Social Security disability insurance? So we're going to check that, because if you don't, then we'll take the application, but it's going to be what we would call a technical denial because you don't have enough quarters of coverage. Then the Social Security disability, that SSDI, that would automatically be a denial. But if you meet the requirements under the SSI program, we're still going to send that off to the Disability Determination Service and vice versa. Normally what happens is when you do file an application for Social Security disability insurance, we are also going to take an application for SSI at the same time. So we're going to cover both at the same time. And normally what that claims representative who's talking to you, if we already can determine that you're not going to be eligible for SSI, we should tell you in that moment and tell you, don't freak out when you get this letter that says you're not eligible for SSI. We're still going to send your disability case over to our Disability Determination Service so that we can get the medical decision on your case for you. So we check to see, do you have enough quarters of coverage? If you do, then the next thing we do is we send it off over to DDS for you. Okay, and this again is where the federal government contracts with a state agency where the examiners and the doctors who work for the state of Georgia, they look through your disability claim, looking at whatever it is that you have alleged to be your disabling condition. And then they look to see, does what you say and what you've alleged and what's in your medical records, does it align with and does it meet the criteria so that we can say, yes, this person is permanently disabled according to our rules here, is what we're going to say. And normally what they'll do is they'll go through, ask for medical evidence from your different doctors. A lot of times they will send some type of correspondence out to you to let you know that they are working on your case. They may send you additional information asking about the type of work that you did, like a work activity report. You may get something like that from them. Now, if once the examiners do go through your case and they determine that there is not enough evidence in file for them to make a medical decision on your case, a lot of times what they will do is they will send you over to one of their doctors, or our doctors, I should say, for what we call a consultative examination, a CE, so that our doctors can look at whatever it is that you have alleged to determine whether or not you meet the criteria. And I always tell people that, number one, when you get this request for you to go to one of our doctors, please, please, please make sure that you can keep that appointment and go to that visit. Also, please remember that when you go to one of these doctors, they are not there to prescribe anything for you. They are simply looking to see that if you allege that you had a hangnail on that right hand, they're going to be looking at the right hand and that hangnail, and that's it, to determine how bad is it, is it infected and things of that sort. They're only going to look at that particular thing and know that you could have multiple consultative examinations for different things that you are alleging. But again, that doctor is only there to examine and then make observations about what it is that they saw with regards to that, and then send that back over to the Disability Determination Service so that their doctors can review that information and then make a determination as to whether or not you meet the criteria. Because many times I've found that people would always think, well, you sent me to your doctors, so that means I'm going to be approved. No, it doesn't. What it means is that there was not enough evidence in file based upon what was in your file. One of the things I always tell people is, as best you can, no, please, please, please know what is in your medical file. When I was a claim representative, I had this one individual who came and filed for disability with me, and she and I were sitting across the desk, because this is when, prior to the pandemic, and we were sitting across the desk, and she handed me this documentation from her doctor. And as I was looking at it, I asked her, I say, do you really want me to put this in your file? Oh, yes. He says I'm disabled. I said, ma'am, are you sure? And I'm trying to give it back to her like, don't you think you need to read this? And she's like, no, he said I'm disabled and I want that in my file. I said, yes, ma'am, I'll make a copy and put it in your file. But as I was escorting her back out to front to the lobby, and I was going back to my desk, I already knew she was going to be denied because she did not read the letter that her doctor had given her. And in this letter, the doctor, I remember it vividly, he very candidly stated he said she wasn't disabled, and he went on to say he thought she was faking. And I'm like, you really want me to put this in your file? And she was like, yes. So I had to put it in there. And of course, it was in no time it came back as a denial, but I knew it was going to be a denial. And I'll tell everybody, know what your doctors are going to say about you, because even in my own medical records, I'll talk to my doctor face to face, and he'll say one thing to me, but when I see the notes that he's posted into my online chart, I'm like, that ain't what he said to me. And then I have to go back and, we're talking about this, and I'm like, but you said this, but you put this in here. So I'm just trying to get it clarified. So I just need people to understand, know what is in your medical records and know what your doctor is going to say about you in the medical evidence. Also, I'm not sure if there are any individuals who may be on this call today. If you are a veteran, because a lot of times with veterans, they'll say, well, I got a VA rating, and the VA says that I am 100% totally disabled. That's wonderful. However, Social Security, we look at something totally different than what the VA does. The VA looks at, can you do what you did before? At Social Security, we're looking to see, can you work at all? Because remember, you have to meet that criteria, having that disabling condition that is expected to last 12 months or longer, or could possibly result in death. And so we're looking to see, even though you can't do what you did in the military, we're looking to see, can you work at all? And also with individuals who have 100% VA rating, what that does for them when they submit that information to us, then we're able to what we call flag the case, so that it goes to a specialized unit that will then take a look at that case for those individuals and try to help speed up getting that individual a decision. 100% VA rating does not, I repeat, it does not guarantee that your Social Security disability claim would be an allowance. So just kind of keep that in mind here. Okay, so how they're going to look at your disability case here is, number one, they're going to look to see, are you working? Because if you are still trying to work despite your disability, and if your earnings go over a certain level, then even though, yes, you may be disabled, because your earnings are more than that threshold, again, that would be a denial, because even though yes, you are disabled, you're still able to work and you're able to provide for yourself at a certain level here. So that's one of the first things we're going to look to see. Are you working? And then we're going to look to see, how severe is that medical condition? And again, that's going to be by us getting that documentation from your different providers here. And then we're going to look to see, does that impairment meet our criteria? One of the ways that, if you, the individual, would like to know what the criteria is, on our website, if you visit ssa.gov, search for the Blue Book. The Blue Book tells you the criteria for each medical listing. So that way, what the disability examiner is looking for when they're determining, do you meet this criteria? Again, it's called the Blue Book. I think it's only in electronic form on our webpage there. So you can't I can't send it in a PDF or anything like that, but you can look at it electronically for yourself. Then we're going to look to see, can you do whatever type of work that you were doing before? Then the next thing we're going to look to see is, can you work at all? Someone is asking a quick question here. Do the earnings include your partner's earnings? For SSI, yes. For Social Security disability, no, because SSI needs-based, we look at everything and everybody in the house. A disability, no. Once you are insured, then it's only about you until you get an allowance or are approved for Social Security disability at that point. Okay, then once the disability determination service, once they gather everything, if they needed to send you to a consultative examination, they're going to do that for you. And then once they gather that everything, then they're going to make a decision on your case. They're either going to say, yes, you do meet the criteria, you are approved for Social Security disability. Or they're going to say, no, you do not meet the criteria. You do not meet the criteria to be disabled according to our rules. Now, if it turns out that you are not approved, what I'm going to tell you is that in that same letter, you will be given what we call our appeal rights. It is very important that if you get a disallowance or you're not approved, that you recontact Social Security within the time frame. It is 60 days, so that way it helps you to continue your case forward to the next step. Because if it turns out at the initial level, meaning your first time applying for Social Security disability, and it turns out that you were not approved because the disability examiner said that you did not meet the criteria, you can file what we call is a request for a reconsideration. That request for reconsideration, you're going to tell us if anything has changed, also if there's any new conditions that have come up since the decision. Then what we do is we send your case back to the Disability Determination Service, but this time a different set of doctors, a different set of examiners. They are going to review the case to determine, did the first set of examiners, did they get it right? Meaning, are they going to agree with them and say, yeah, yep, they did it right. This person is not disabled according to our rules. Or are they going to say, nope, they missed something. This person is approved. They are disabled according to our rules. If it turns out at the reconsideration that you are still found to be not disabled, then again, you're going to get another letter from us. And again, it will have your appeals period in there. Again, you get 60 days to say, hey, I do not agree with this. I want to take my case to the next step. The next step is that your case then goes before an administrative law judge, or you're going to request a hearing. And then when it does get to the administrative law judge, that also gives you the opportunity to be able to present or testify on your behalf, so that the judge can speak to you. If you have an attorney, he or she speaks to your attorney, and then they make a decision based upon whatever evidence that they have, and if anything new has come up, to determine whether or not you meet the criteria to be disabled. The good thing about the appeals process is that when you keep it going, if you do get approved at a later date, say if you get approved at the hearings level because you always, followed the appeals process, then we go back and we can pay you back to your protected filing date. But remember, we don't pay for those first 5 months that you are considered to be disabled here. Someone is asking, are there special circumstances for processing claims for cancer patients who may not have a year to wait for a decision? There are some special instances, I'm struggling saying the word here, where it may be where, if an example is, if someone doesn't have long to live, we will flag that case, letting them know that this is special and that it needs to be expedited because this person needs a decision now because of their circumstances, and that they may not be able to wait down the road. So one of the things we're going to be looking at in medical records, such as if someone does have cancer and if the doctor has said it is terminal, we try to be kind of as nice as possible to ask about this, especially when talking to the individual who's filing, because a lot of people are in denial and they don't want to admit, I only have a certain amount of time left or expected to live. They don't want to acknowledge that, but we look at the medical evidence, and if you can tell us that, we can flag that case, get it moved out of kind of like, the normal case processing over to a specialized unit. Also, there are going to be certain types of conditions that are going to be flagged as what we call compassionate allowance cases. And you can look up that information on our webpage, because there is a list of certain conditions that if an individual has one of those, that is considered to be what we call a compassionate allowance cases. And a lot of times that allows us to almost make an immediate decision once we see the right evidence in that file to say, yes, this person is disabled. And that way we can start the process to ensure that this person starts to receive that benefit. So there is certain types of cases that are what we call compassionate allowance cases. Also, if a person, if their life expectancy is kind of greatly reduced, we also want to know about those individuals so that we can, again, making sure that we are flagging those cases accordingly. So I hope that helped for you. I'm tending to get a little long-winded here, but I guess I like what I do. let's see here. So if a person is approved for Social Security disability, like I said, once that individual does start to receive their disability benefit, in addition to them, other members of the family may be able to draw benefit off of your record, such as their spouse. If they're age 62 or earlier, older, then they may be eligible to draw a potential spousal benefit off of this person's record, or that spouse may be able to draw benefit at any age as long as they're caring for a child that is under the age of 16 or disabled. And then if you are divorced from someone who has started to receive their disability benefit, you may qualify for a divorced spouse's benefit off of their record. But in order to do so, you got to meet certain criteria, meaning you had to have been married to this person for 10 years or longer, currently not married, and age 62 or older. What we do is we look to see how much can you get off of your own record first. If your amount is less than half of theirs, we can combine the two amounts to get you up to half of whatever their benefit amount would be. Also with the children, as long as your children are not married and age 18 or 19 and still in high school, they would be able to get a benefit off of the record. And if your child is not married, and as long as we can determine that that child has a disabling condition and their condition began before the age of 22, they could get what we call as a disabled adult child benefit. But also remember with that, for that disabled adult child, that's going to require a disability benefit for them. Okay, someone is asking if one of my 35 years is zeros. If I worked 1 year after 71, would it increase my benefits? I think, Miss Karen, I think you're talking about the retirement benefit. So in your high 35, just quickly to answer this question, your high 35 years of earnings over your lifetime determines your retirement benefit. If you continue to work after your full retirement age, we do go back usually annually to look to see, are there any new earnings on the record? If those new earnings make a difference to adjust the payment amount, we send you a letter in the mail letting you know, this is what we paid you, this is what we should have paid you. We send you the difference in the money, and then you'll have a new monthly payment amount. So yes, we would go back and recalculate that. Someone is asking, should they ask their caseworker to do a compassionate allowance, or is there a specific form that they would need to fill out on that? If you know that the condition that the individual has does meet the compassionate allowance criteria, what I would tell you is make sure that you're submitting that medical evidence. And if it were me, I would be writing all over it saying potential compassionate allowance or potential CAL case, so that those documents are flagged, so that when the examiner looks at it, they can go ding, ding, ding. I need to speed this up for this individual. Also, our agency is doing a lot better with, I know TDS is now doing a lot better with working with the different providers, because one of the biggest things that was slowing down cases was being able to get medical evidence. And now we're starting to work with more providers, such as that we can do what we call a hit, so that when we send out that medical release forms, a lot of times now medical records are coming back within 24 to 48 hours. A prime example of that is the VA. If someone has VA records, they're usually coming back very quickly on that case, so that they can kind of scan through, look to see what is in there. Is it enough that we can make a medical decision and say, yes, this person is disabled according to the rules here for the individual. So these are going to be some of the individuals who can get benefits off of your record once you are approved for disability. And also remember that if somebody has warrants, they need to tell us that, because that could potentially stop the benefit for that individual. If a person has been convicted of a crime, or if they violate their parole or probation, it could make a difference for them, especially under SSI. If a person goes to jail, it doesn't matter if they've been convicted or not, as long as they are confined, the SSI, it has to stop. Under Social Security disability or Social Security retirement, it requires that you are confined and convicted in order for us to be able to stop that benefit. So just because a person maybe, if something happens and they go to jail, but if they have not been convicted, then the benefit would still continue up until the point the decision is rendered, and we know whether or not they are convicted as well. And just remember that the state agency, the Disability Determination Service, they're going to be the ones who are going to make the medical decision with regards to whether or not a person meets our disability meets the disability criteria. The letter is going to say one of two things again, either approved medically or it will say a medical denial. And again, it offers those appeal rights for that individual. It's very important that they make sure that they're paying attention to those letters. The other thing is that if somebody moves, please, please, please keep us updated so that we can make sure that the disability examiners, they are aware that this person has moved so that we can get that information to them so that they can keep sending that information to the correct address, because a lot of times that's another thing that slows down case processing for individuals, because people move and they forget to tell DDS that they've moved. And again, this right here is going to be where I was talking about the appeals process, where if they say that you are not approved, you can file a reconsideration. That's the first step. If that comes back and we still say, nope, you're not disabled, then the next step is taking to the hearings level to be able to go before the administrative law judge. Now, if a person is approved, then their payments is going to be based upon their day of birth, meaning that they're going to get their check on a Wednesday. So if a person's birthday is the 1st through the 10th, that's the second Wednesday of the month. The 11th through the 20th is the third Wednesday of the month, and the 21st through the 31st is the fourth Wednesday of the month if somebody is approved for retirement or disability here. SSI, remember that check always comes on the 1st of the month. So if somebody tells you, well, I get my check on the 1st of the month, then that's going to be ding, 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 they get SSI, versus if they tell you they get their benefit on a Wednesday, if they're disabled or retired, then that's going to determine what Wednesday of the month they would get that benefit of there. Now, if somebody does get approved for Social Security disability and this individual decides that they want to attempt to go back to work, I tell people, number one, please, please, please contact Social Security to let us know that you want to attempt a trial work period. Because if you go back to work and you don't tell us, we're going to see those earnings and it will trigger what we call is a continuing disability review. And because of that continuing disability review, it could potentially stop that Social Security disability benefit for that individual. Versus if you contact us and say, I want to try a trial work period, you're going to tell us where you think you're going to work, how many hours you're thinking you're going to work, but also that allows you to continue to get that disability benefit while you're attempting to work, because it is a 9-month period that you get to try to go back to work, and it's not consecutive. So say, for example, if somebody's got approved for disability, maybe a year or two down the road, they say, I want to try and go back to work. They contact Social Security and they tell us, and then they attempt to go back to work. They only work, say, 1 month because they couldn't do it. That's fine. Then we document it appropriately, saying that they attempted to go back to work. It was unsuccessful. That person still has 8 more months to attempt to go back to work if they want to do so at a later date there for us. If someone is interested in going back to work, they should really look into trying to do a trial work period. Also, they may want to contact Social Security about the Ticket to Work program. Now, just to kind of highlight this again, Medicare. This is the federal health insurance program that's going to be for individuals who are age 65 or older, or if they've been on Social Security disability for at least 24 months, then they are enrolled in Medicare. We enroll them automatically in Medicare after on the 25th month. If someone is getting SSI, the needs-based program, the check that they get at the 1st of the month, as long as we can pay them at least $1, they get Medicaid. Medicaid comes through the state that they live in. So they need to be aware of this, where, you know, the potential health insurance coverage, where it's going to come from for them. Another thing that we like to highlight with individuals with the disability program, because depending on the nature of the disability, the Disability Determination Service may come back and say this individual needs some assistance with managing their potential benefits they may get from Social Security, meaning that they're going to need a representative payee. What this is normally we have an order of priority of who we like to see as a representative payee, such as family, friends, and kind of down at the bottom of the list is going to be those organizational payees. If there's nobody else to do this, we're going to have that person to file an application with us. If they meet the criteria, then what will happen is then this individual's check, it will say Joe Blow for whatever your name is. And then Joe, this individual, they'll be responsible for being able to conduct business with Social Security on your behalf. They can call and talk about whatever's going on with you. Also, they're going to be responsible for making sure your needs are met, making sure that your bills are getting paid, that your mortgage or your rent is being paid, you have the food and shelter needs that you need are being taken care of for you. That is going to be the responsibility of that representative payee. Also, periodically, what we're going to do is that we will do a representative payee accounting, meaning that we're going to send that person a letter letting you know for a certain period of time, we've sent you X number of dollars for this individual. We just want to know, what did you do with it? Did you spend it all? Did you save some? If you saved some, how much? So that we can account for, are you taking care of this individual's needs? And of course, through the My Social Security account, that representative payee can report that information. And then I think finally here, and then I'll go back to see if I have addressed everybody's questions. Another thing that we started during the pandemic is called advanced designation. So if someone is approved for disability, they have the option to think about, if something were to happen to me that I've become incapacitated, that I'm no longer able to manage my benefits for myself, you can provide the names and telephone numbers up to 3 individuals that SSA can contact on your behalf to determine if they would be interested in being a representative payee for you, because you can no longer manage your funds. All that person needs to give us is the person's name, telephone number, and we just kind of have it in a holding file that if something happens, we can reach out to that person on your behalf. For that individual. And I think that's going to kind of wrap up the general overview here.
Thank you for joining Cancer Support Community Atlanta for this program. If you're interested in other live or recorded programs, please visit the online program tab of our website, cscatlanta.org, or follow us on Facebook. We'll be sharing additional information on upcoming programs.